Having covered Neverwinter Night modules now for the better part of the last half year on this channel, I've come to the conclusion on the topic of Neverwinter Night based campaigns. A lot of people feel that the beginning of Neverwinter Nights campaigns start with Shadows of Undrentide. While I did a review of the original campaign Wailing Death, and I'll leave a link down below in the description, it really comes down to I wondered why do so many people feel this way. Since the OC is fresh in my mind, I thought I'd dive into SOU and give it a whirl. Also, just for reference sake, I've never played Shadows of Undrentide. It allowed me to actually look at this from a very fresh perspective, and that's where we're at right now. But what is Shadows of Undrentide? Originally released back in 2003, SOU was released to the public as an expansion pack for Neverwinter Nights. It introduced a whole host of things to the community. It included prestige classes, creatures, spells, and more. But the main story campaign was touted as the most prominent part of the expansion. Starting at level 1, the player character can expect to land somewhere around 13 plus in levels depending on the use of henchmen. Roleplay is heavy, traps moderate, puzzles are also pretty moderate, and loot is heavy. But before we dive too far down this rabbit hole, remember to like and subscribe for more future content. It really helps out. Let's go ahead and dive in. The opening to Shadows of Undrentide really leaves a lot on the table for wowing the player. While I said I wasn't comparing Wailing Death to SOU, I do think it is important to note from a development standpoint, I felt the same way about the opening to OC. In Shadows of Undrentide, we are this fledgling young student in the apprenticeship of a powerful mage by the name of Drogan Drogensen. Mr. DD runs a program for young up-and-coming adventurers, and we happen to be on the verge of finishing his little educational program first. This is also when things quickly turn sideways as the school and the master are assaulted by heinous kobold thugs. Not only do they overpower our supreme leader in a show of force, but without our help would surely have killed Drogan in the process. Now see, this is why I'm a little bit on the fence about the opening if you think about it. These are just kobolds and he is a powerful wizard. But anyway, these nasty little buggers still manage to make off in a heist of ancient artifacts and leave us in a scramble to save Drogan, who has also been poisoned in the process. Now, the opening tile sets outside the school show us a small village of Hilltop and our adventure begins. But it really isn't until after Hilltop that I really start to get a feel for this Shadows of the Undrentide. Now, there are a few small opening quest lines, but really they didn't have a lot of hook to them. I think this is okay though, given the circumstances that this might be the first time players are actually going to play Neverwinter Nights, especially if they ask the community, which almost always says this is the best place to start. Really, any class shouldn't have any issue in the opening. I do think it's important to note that as the module progresses, that it is important to streamline your character and select proper henchmen to bolster the party. This might dig into the XP, but it's well worth the ease of dispatching the non-boss enemies along the way. About the time we start venturing out into the wilderness, I really start to appreciate the side quest designs as well. As one notable is stumbling across a ranger that is on a mission to save his dying wife. And all this roleplay really helps to enrich the experience of the player. I think that's Shadows of the Undrentide in itself. It presents so many varied play styles and options that have a lot of cause and effect. Side quests or even the main campaign, it really doesn't matter. It really at some points feels very open-ended. What might seem like a simple pound the crap out of the monster can sometimes broaden to a much more larger experience, like simply getting information out of them and then sending them on their way. Do you fight them again? Fight their angry cousins later? Or do they even help you out? There is a lot of things that can add up to a really nice picture of what is presented in Shadows of Undrentide and can be fully explored. Speaking a little bit about that main story, it's not really groundbreaking. It doesn't really have any true twists or turns, but what it presents does encompass the entirety of what's going on. There is a gravity to the action surrounding the hero as we plunge through dungeons or ruins, cross deserts, or investigate dank underground catacombs beneath graveyards. Our main mission is never too far from sight. Why we are doing this and what we uncover along the way fleshes out a section of Forgotten Realms lore that is both fascinating to ponder about and at the same time spark enough sense of discovery to make that journey all the more enjoyable. As for the music selection, a lot of this has actually been reused from the Wailing Death, but that being said, it does have a place here and it sets a tone, so here's a short piece to check out. Shadows of Undrentide is a fairly lengthy campaign. I can easily see why this is favored among so many as a great starting point in the Neverwinter Nights game. It also introduces a small, iconic character that we will see later on in other works of Neverwinter Nights and also into Neverwinter Nights 2. It establishes itself as a showcase of the multitude of choices that are available to a playthrough on this engine and really hits home some of the concepts that makes us fans of fantasy to begin with. Shadows of Undrentide is a great expansion and a good stepping stone to the continuation that follows later on with Hordes of the Underdark. Well, that's going to go ahead and be a wrap for this review. I'm going to go ahead and sign out. Have a great day gaming. Later.